Lieutenant Ta-Jun Park looked out the viewport of the exploration vessel Stellar Wind. Stars glittered in the black void. His scanner beeped with a sudden alert, breaking the calm of the bridge. "Captain Minho, I'm detecting a distress signal," he said, adjusting his instruments. The signal pulsed weakly from an uncharted moon orbiting a gas giant. Their mission to map this section of space had just become more interesting. "Analysis," Captain Minho asked, moving to stand behind Ta-Jun's station. "Unknown vessel type. Signal matches no known configuration in our database." Ta-Jun's fingers flew across the console. "But there's definitely someone alive down there." The captain nodded, making a quick decision. "Prepare a landing team. You'll lead, Lieutenant. Take Subin for medical and Donghyun for security." Within an hour, their shuttle broke through the thin atmosphere of the moon. The surface was covered in strange crystalline formations that glittered under the light of the distant sun. "Tracking the signal to that ridge," Ta-Jun said as he piloted the craft. The shuttle approached a deep gash in the moon's surface. At the bottom lay a ship unlike any they had encountered before. Its design was smooth and flowing, almost organic in appearance. The team landed nearby and approached in their environmental suits. The alien ship had been badly damaged, with a long tear along one side. "Careful," Donghyun warned, his hand resting on his weapon as they entered through the breach. Inside, the ship was even stranger. The walls seemed to pulse with faint bioluminescence. The corridors curved in unexpected ways, making navigation difficult. "Life signs ahead," Subin said, checking her medical scanner. "Just one." They found her in what appeared to be the ship's control center. A humanoid figure lay partially covered by debris, unmoving. Her skin had a soft purple hue and seemed to shimmer slightly in the dim light. Subin knelt beside the alien, running her scanner over the still form. "She's alive, but injured. We need to get her back to the ship." Ta-Jun felt a strange pull as he looked at the alien's face. Despite her clearly non-human features, there was something beautiful about her. Her features were delicate, almost ethereal. As they carefully moved her to a stretcher, her eyes fluttered open. They were a deep violet color with no whites, just endless pools of purple that seemed to shift and change as they caught the light. "She's conscious," Subin said, surprised. The alien's lips moved, but no sound came out. She tried again, producing sounds unlike any language they had heard before. "The universal translator can't make sense of it," Donghyun noted, checking his device. Ta-Jun leaned closer. "We're here to help. You're safe now." The alien's eyes focused on him. She reached out one slender hand and touched his helmet. A strange warmth spread through him, not physical but something deeper. They transported her carefully back to the Stellar Wind, placing her in the ship's medical bay. Captain Minho ordered a quarantine protocol, standard procedure for first contact situations. To everyone's surprise, the alien began learning their language at an incredible rate. By the end of the first day, she could form simple sentences. "I am Neri," she told them, her voice musical and slightly otherworldly. "My ship, damage. Attack." "Who attacked you?" Captain Minho asked, standing safely on the other side of the quarantine field. Neri shook her head, struggling to find the words. "Not remember. Many lights. Then falling." Over the next few days, her condition improved rapidly. The ship's doctor, Dr. Juwu, was amazed by her healing abilities. "Her cellular structure is fascinating," Juwu told Ta-Jun. "It's unlike anything I've seen before, almost adaptable." Ta-Jun found himself volunteering for every shift to monitor their guest. Something about Neri drew him in. Her curiosity about humans seemed genuine, and her quick mind impressed him. By the end of the week, she spoke their language fluently, with only an unusual lilting accent to mark her as alien. She explained that she was a diplomatic envoy from a distant star system, sent to make contact with other spacefaring species. "My people wish to share knowledge, to learn," she told Ta-Jun during one of their conversations. "We have traveled far. We should return to your homeworld, he suggested. Your people must be worried. A shadow passed across her face. Too far, many generations of travel. As quarantine protocols relaxed, Neri was given limited access to the ship. Tai-Jun volunteered to be her guide and liaison. I've been assigned to help you understand our ways, he told her, trying to maintain professional detachment despite the strange connection he felt. I would like that, she replied, her violet eyes meeting his. In that moment, something passed between them that transcended species. Not everyone welcomed their visitor. Dong Hyun kept his distance, watching her with suspicious eyes. Don't you think it's strange? He asked Tai-Jun in the mess hall. The way she learns so fast. The way she looks at everything like she's studying us. She's curious. Wouldn't you be in her position? Tai-Jun defended her. As days passed, Tai-Jun found himself sharing more about Earth, about human culture and feelings. Neri listened with rapt attention, especially to stories about love and connection. Humans feel so deeply, she observed. It is beautiful. What Tai-Jun didn't notice was how the ship's systems occasionally flickered when Neri passed by, or how plants in the hydroponics bay seemed to turn toward her when she entered. He didn't see the strange patterns that sometimes rippled beneath her skin when she thought no one was watching. All he saw was her beauty, her intelligence, her seeming fascination with him. And as the stellar wind continued its journey back to Earth, Lieutenant Tai-Jun Park was falling deeply for the alien they had rescued, unaware of what truly lay beneath her shimmering surface. Tai-Jun found himself spending every free moment with Neri over the next 3 weeks. The stellar wind continued its journey through space, and the crew settled into a routine that now included their mysterious visitor. Tell me more about your home planet, Neri asked as they sat in the ship's small garden area. Plants from Earth grew in carefully maintained beds, creating a tiny oasis of green in the metal vessel. Earth has so many different environments, Tai-Jun explained, smiling at her interest. Oceans that stretch farther than you can see. Mountains that reach into the clouds. Forests so dense you can walk for days without seeing the sky. Neri leaned forward, her violet eyes wide with wonder. I would like to touch real water someday, to feel wind on my face. You will, he promised. Something about her made him want to show her everything beautiful in the universe. He didn't notice the small plant next to them leaning toward her, its stem stretching unnaturally in her direction. The first strange incident happened in the ship's engine room. Chief Engineer Hannah couldn't explain why 3 power couplings had failed simultaneously. It's impossible, she told Captain Minho at the emergency meeting. Those systems have independent backups. They can't all fail unless someone wanted them to. The captain looked around the table. Could it be sabotage? Security Officer Dong Hyun cleared his throat. The failure started after we brought the alien aboard. Neri has limited access to the ship, Tai-Jun said quickly. She can't even enter the engine section without an escort. Maybe she doesn't need to, Dong Hyun replied. We know nothing about her capabilities. After the meeting, Dong Hyun pulled Tai-Jun aside in the corridor. I've been watching her. Don't you think it's strange how the computers respond to her? Sometimes they react before she even touches the controls. She's a fast learner, Tai-Jun defended. Too fast, Dong Hyun insisted. And have you noticed the supply discrepancies? Food materials missing from storage. Biological samples disappearing from the lab. Tai-Jun frowned. Are you accusing her of stealing? I'm saying we don't know what she needs to survive. What if she's not what she appears to be? That night, Tai-Jun couldn't sleep. Could Dong Hyun be right? He turned the question over in his mind, remembering every conversation, every moment with Neri. Her gentleness, her curiosity seemed genuine. The way she looked at him made him feel understood in a way no human ever had. The next morning, he found Neri in the observation deck, watching the stars streak by. Your friend does not trust me, she said without turning around. Tai-Jun stopped, surprised. You know about that? She turned, her shimmering skin catching the starlight. People look at me differently when they are afraid. I have seen this before. Strange things have been happening on the ship, he admitted, sitting beside her. And you think I caused them? Her voice held no anger, just a sad resignation. I don't know what to think, he answered honestly. She reached out, hesitating before touching his hand. Her skin was warm, almost vibrating with energy. My people are different from yours. We sense things you cannot. Perhaps this causes fear. The ship's lights flickered briefly, then stabilized. See, she smiled sadly. Electronics sometimes respond to my presence. It is not intentional. Something in her explanation eased his mind, though a small doubt remained. That evening at dinner, he noticed the crew watching her, keeping their distance. Only Dr. Juwu seemed genuinely interested, asking Neri questions about her physiology. Your cellular regeneration is remarkable, the doctor said. I've never seen anything like it. My people evolved on a world with harsh radiation, Neri explained. We had to adapt or die. Later that week, Ta-Jun took Neri to the ship's small recreation area. Music played softly as he taught her a simple earth dance. Your customs are beautiful, she said as they moved together. So much touching, so much closeness. Don't your people dance? He asked. We connect differently. Her eyes seemed to deepen in color, more directly. As they danced, Ta-Jun felt a strange sensation, as if something was brushing against his thoughts. It wasn't unpleasant. It felt like warmth spreading through his mind. What was that? He asked, stopping. Neri stepped back quickly. I'm sorry. Sometimes when I feel strong emotions, it happens without my control. What happens? She looked away. A connection. My people can share thoughts, feelings. I didn't mean to intrude. Instead of feeling violated, Ta-Jun was fascinated. Could you show me? Properly, I mean. Her eyes widened. You would allow this? He nodded, and she carefully placed her hands on either side of his face. This time, the sensation was stronger, a gentle flow of emotions washing over him. Wonder, curiosity, loneliness, and something deeper, warmer. When she pulled away, they both breathed heavily. That was, he couldn't find words. Yes, she whispered. That night, the ship's computer reported unusual energy readings throughout the ventilation system. Dong Hyun led a team to investigate but found nothing concrete, just traces of an unidentifiable biological compound. It's spreading, he told the captain privately. Whatever it is, it's moving through the ship. Meanwhile, crew members began reporting strange dreams. Dr. Juwu noted increased brainwave activity in several patients who complained of vivid nightmares. Something's affecting our sleep patterns, she reported, almost like a low-level psychic field. Ta-Jun refused to believe Neri was responsible. The connection growing between them felt too real, too profound to be manipulation. When they were together, time seemed to slip away. He found himself sharing thoughts and feelings he'd never expressed to anyone. One evening, as they watched the stars from his quarters, a privilege granted by the captain despite Dong Hyun's objections, Ta-Jun noticed faint patterns appearing on Neri's skin, delicate swirls that seemed to move beneath the surface. Your skin, he said, touching her arm gently. It's changing. Neri looked down, then back at him with an expression he couldn't read. It happens when my kind forms a deep bond. It is significant. What does it mean? He asked. She moved closer, her voice soft. It means I am becoming something new because of you. The ship's alarm suddenly blared, breaking the moment. Emergency in hydroponics, the computer announced. When they arrived, the sight was shocking. The plants had grown explosively, breaking containment and spreading across walls and ceiling. And at the center of each plant, small violet nodes pulsed with a familiar light, the same color as Neri's eyes. The crew stared in shock at the transformed hydroponics bay. Vines snaked across the ceiling and walls. Flowers bloomed that had never been seen on Earth, and every plant glowed with a faint purple light. Captain Minho ordered immediate containment protocols. "Seal this section," he commanded. "Full environmental lockdown." Jun noticed Nari backing away, her eyes wide and fixed on the transformed plants. He moved to her side as the rest of the crew worked to contain the unexpected growth. "Did you know about this?" he whispered. She shook her head, but something in her expression troubled him. "Not exactly," she answered carefully. "But I feel them. They're responding to me." Before he could question her further, Dong Hyun approached with 2 security officers. "Captain, I request permission to place our guest in secure quarters," he said formally, but his eyes were hard. "Until we understand what's happening." Captain Minho looked between Nari and the bizarre plant growth. "Agreed. Lieutenant Park, escort her to the holding area." "This isn't necessary," Jun protested. "She's not a threat." "It's okay." Nari touched his arm gently. "I understand their fear." As Jun led her away, he felt torn between duty and his growing feelings. In the secure room, with its reinforced door and observation window, Nari seemed smaller, vulnerable. "I'll get this sorted out," he promised. She smiled sadly. "Perhaps it's better if I stay here. Things are changing faster than I expected." "What's happening?" "Nari, please, help me understand." She held up her arms where the patterns had spread, now covering most of her visible skin. The markings shifted like liquid metal beneath her surface. "My people change when we form connections," she explained. "We adapt to environments, to other beings. It's how we survive. You're changing because of me, because of us, because of everything. This ship, the crew, you." She touched the wall, and for a moment, Jun thought he saw the metal ripple under her fingers. "Especially you." That night, Jun couldn't sleep. The ship felt different somehow, as if it were breathing. The usual mechanical hums had taken on an almost organic rhythm. When he finally drifted off, his dreams were vivid and strange. Swimming in violet seas, flying through crimson clouds, always with Nari beside him, leading him deeper into unknown territories. He woke suddenly to find the ship's lights flickering. The computer terminal in his quarters activated on its own, scrolling through data files at impossible speed. Then, just as quickly, everything returned to normal. The next morning, more crew members reported similar experiences. Dreams that felt too real. Missing time. Personal items rearranged. Dr. Ju called an emergency medical meeting. "Brain scans show unusual activity in the limbic system," she reported, displaying the results, almost like the patterns we see during deep emotional bonding, but much more intense. "What's causing it?" the captain asked. Dr. Ju hesitated. "I believe we're experiencing some form of psychic influence, and based on the timing." "It's her," Dong Hyun finished. "I told you she was dangerous." Despite the mounting evidence, Jun found himself defending Nari. That afternoon, he used his security clearance to visit her in the holding area. What he saw made him freeze in the doorway. Nari stood in the center of the room, her body partially transformed. Her arms had elongated, fingers tapering into delicate points that branched like coral. The patterns on her skin now glowed with the same light as the plants in hydroponics. Her hair floated around her head as if underwater. She turned at his entrance, and her eyes, now completely violet with no pupil or iris, widened in alarm. Immediately, her form began to shift back to the Nari he recognized. "You weren't supposed to see," she whispered. Jun closed the door behind him, heart racing. "What are you?" "I told you my people adapt." Her voice trembled. "This is adaptation." "To what?" "To you. To humans. To your ship." She approached him cautiously. "My kind takes on aspects of the environments and beings we care for." The word hummed between them, leaden with meaning. Jun knew he should report what he'd seen, but something held him back. "The incidents on the ship, the plants, the dreams, that's all you." She nodded slowly. not intentional. When I change, it affects things around me, creates echoes. Nary, the crew is frightened. If they see you like this, they will destroy me, she finished simply. I know the pattern. Fear leads to violence. That night, Ta-Jun made a decision that would change everything. He overrode the security protocols and moved Nary to his quarters where he could protect her, could understand what was happening. It was against regulations, against common sense, but he couldn't bear the thought of her being treated like a monster. In the privacy of his room, she allowed herself to relax, and the transformation progressed more visibly. The beautiful alien he had rescued was becoming something else entirely, something both terrifying and mesmerizing. Does it hurt? He asked as he watched ripples move beneath her skin. It's like being born again, she said, becoming more myself, not less. She reached for him, and he noticed the fine webbing between her fingers, translucent and shimmering. Against all reason, he took her hand. The connection that flowed between them this time was deeper, more intense. Images flooded his mind. Vast star systems he couldn't recognize, beams of light and energy, worlds where the line between organic and inorganic didn't exist. This is where you come from, he gasped when the connection ebbed. Part of it, she answered. We are travelers, collectors of life and experience. That night, as they lay side by side, Ta-Jun noticed the room itself seemed to be responding to Nary's presence. Subtle changes in temperature, in light, in the very feeling of the air. When he finally drifted to sleep, he felt safe despite the strangeness surrounding him. He woke in darkness to a sound he couldn't identify, a soft clicking paired with a musical hum. Opening his eyes, he saw Nary's silhouette against the stars outside the viewport. Her form was fluid, shifting, no longer even remotely human. Multiple limbs extended from a core that pulsed with bioluminescent light. What had been her head now housed several sensory organs that turned in different directions. She was beautiful in an entirely alien way, complex, impossible, and utterly foreign. When he gasped, she turned. In an instant, her form began condensing, returning to the humanoid shape he knew. No, he whispered. You don't have to hide from me. She hesitated, her body caught between forms. This is what I truly am, Ta-Jun. Not a diplomatic envoy. Not what your people would accept. What are you then? He asked, no longer afraid but filled with wonder. Her voice came not from a mouth but seemed to resonate from her entire being. The beginning of something new, a bridge between worlds. As dawn's artificial light began to fill the room, Nary completed her transformation back to humanoid form. But Ta-Jun had seen the truth, and nothing would ever be the same. Ta-Jun woke to the insistent blaring of the ship's emergency alarm. The computer's voice echoed through his quarters. Critical system failure. Life support compromised on decks 3 through 7. All personnel report to emergency stations. He sat up quickly, looking for Nary. She wasn't in the room. His communication device buzzed with messages from the bridge. Lieutenant Park, report your location, came Captain Minho's tense voice. My quarters, sir. On my way to the bridge. Have you seen our guest? She's not in the holding area. Ta-Jun hesitated before answering. No, sir. I'll keep an eye out. In the corridors, chaos reigned. Crew members rushed in different directions, some looking confused and disoriented. He passed Dr. Juwu helping a navigator who seemed unable to walk straight. What's happening to them? Ta-Jun asked. Memory gaps, coordination problems, she replied grimly. Like their brains are being rewritten. 20 crew affected so far. On the bridge, Captain Minho stood before the main display, his face grim. System after system showed failure warnings. Report, he ordered when Ta-Jun entered. Sir, what happened? Ta-Jun asked, taking his station. Everything started failing simultaneously. Environmental controls, navigation systems, power distribution. The captain lowered his voice. And our alien guest is missing. Dong Hyun stepped forward. Security footage shows her accessing the central computer core at 300 hours. Then the cameras went offline. That's impossible, Ta Jun said. She was in secure quarters. Dong Hyun's eyes narrowed. Was she? The log shows your security code unlocking her door last night. All eyes turned to Ta Jun. The captain's expression hardened. You compromised this ship. Before Tai Jun could defend himself, the ship's lights flickered and died. Emergency lighting bathed the bridge in red. On the main screen, a new message appeared, written in rapidly scrolling text. Tae-juan. See Intrel Core. Come alone. It's her, Dong Hyun said, drawing his weapon. She's in the system somehow. Captain Minho turned to Ta Jun. Whatever is happening, she seems to want you. This might be our only chance to regain control. Sir, I should take a security team. Dong Hyun protested. No, the captain decided. She asked for him alone. Lieutenant Park, you'll wear a tracker. We'll monitor from here. Find out what she wants, what she's doing to my ship. Tai Jun made his way through darkened corridors toward the central computer core. The ship felt different, warmer, more humid. In places, the walls seemed to pulse slightly, as if alive. Strange growths that resembled the plants from hydroponics had spread along the floors and ceilings, glowing with violet light. The central core's door was open when he arrived. Inside, the massive computer banks that controlled the stellar wind had transformed. Organic material grew between mechanical components, connecting them in new patterns. And at the center stood Neri. She was no longer trying to maintain her humanoid appearance. Her body had elongated, with multiple limbs that connected directly to the ship's systems. Her skin was translucent, revealing complex internal structures that glowed with energy. Only her face remained somewhat recognizable, though her eyes now covered more of her head, wrapping around like a helmet of violet light. Neri, he whispered. She turned, her movements fluid and alien. Ta Jun, you came. Her voice emerged from several points on her body simultaneously. What are you doing to the ship, to the crew? He asked, stepping closer despite his fear. Preparing. Transforming. The walls pulsed in rhythm with her words. Making it suitable. For what? For my true purpose. Parts of her body shifted, revealing patterns that matched the ship's circuitry. I am a seeder. We find new worlds. Prepare them for habitation. The truth crashed over Ta Jun like a wave. You're not a diplomat. You're an invasion. Not as you understand it. She reached out with one of her limbs, stopping just short of touching him. My kind doesn't conquer. We transform. Improve. We bring worlds into our collective, make them more than they were. The crew members who can't remember, who are confused. That's your doing. Early adaptation, she confirmed. Their minds are connecting to the new network I'm creating. Some resist more than others. Tai Jun stepped back. You used me to get access to the ship, to Earth. For the first time, Neri's form faltered, rippling with what might have been emotion. Yes. At first, her voice softened. You were supposed to be a tool, nothing more. But something unexpected happened. What? I began to feel, to want, to care about you as an individual, not just a means to an end. Her form shifted again, attempting to become more humanoid, more familiar to him. My kind exists as a collective consciousness. We don't have individual desires. Until now. Tai Jun thought of the moments they'd shared, the connection he'd felt. Had it all been manipulation? If you care about me, stop this, he pleaded. Return the ship to normal. Let the crew go. I can't stop the process once it's begun, she said. But I can offer you something no human has ever been offered. Join me. Be part of what's coming. And if I refuse, then you will be transformed with the others, but without choice, without the awareness I could give you. Her form rippled again. I don't want that for you. The ship shuddered around them. On a nearby screen, Ta Jun saw Dong Hyun leading a team toward the core, weapons ready. They're coming to destroy you, he said. They cannot. I am the ship now. Her voice was sad. They don't understand what's happening. This isn't destruction. It's evolution. Ta Jun's mind raced. The beautiful alien he had rescued, had fallen for, was a biological terraforming agent. Her kind spread throughout the galaxy, transforming planets and species to suit their needs. Earth would be next. Show me, he said suddenly. Show me everything. What you are, what you plan. The truth. Nari hesitated, then extended a limb toward him. This will change you, Ta Jun. You will never be the same. I need to understand. When her touch connected with his skin, his mind exploded with images and sensations. He saw vast worlds transformed into living networks, species merged into collective consciousness, stars harnessed for energy. He saw the beauty and the horror of what Neri represented. A future where individual identity was subsumed into something greater, where the line between living and non-living disappeared. And he saw her conflict. How her time with him had created something new in her, a sense of self that her kind had never known. How she was now caught between her purpose and her feelings. When the connection broke, Ta Jun staggered backward. The door behind him burst open as Dong Hyun's team entered, weapons raised. "Step away from it, Lieutenant," Dong Hyun shouted. Nari's form expanded protectively, her limbs creating a barrier between Ta Jun and the security team. "Wait," Ta Jun called out, standing between them. "Don't shoot." He turned back to Nari, seeing her now for what she truly was, both monster and miracle, threat and possibility. "I know what you are now," he said quietly, "and I know what I have to do." Ta Jun raised his hands, facing Dong Hyun and the security team. "Lower your weapons," he said calmly. "Shooting will only make things worse." Dong Hyun kept his weapon aimed at Nari. "That thing has taken over our ship. Look at what it's doing." "I know what she is now," Ta Jun replied. "And I know how to fix this, but you need to trust me." Captain Minho's voice came through Dong Hyun's communicator. "Let him try. We have no other options right now." The security team reluctantly lowered their weapons. Ta Jun turned back to Nari, whose form rippled with tension and what might have been fear. "They will destroy me if they can," she said, her voice creating vibrations in the air around them. "No one is destroying anyone," Ta Jun said firmly. He stepped closer to her. "You offered me a choice. Now I'm offering you one." Nari's multiple eyes focused on him. "What choice?" "Come with me. Just me. We'll take a shuttle. Leave the stellar wind and its crew as they were." He reached out, almost touching one of her shimmering limbs. "You said I made you feel different. Made you want to be an individual. Prove it." The organic material connecting Nari to the ship's systems pulsed faster. "My purpose can change," he finished for her, "just like you've changed me." Around them, the ship groaned as systems fought against each other. Half the vessel was now transformed by Nari's influence, organic matter growing through corridors and rooms. The other half struggled to maintain its original form. "If I disconnect now, the transformation will be incomplete," she warned. "Neither fully ship nor fully my kind's creation. But the crew will live. The ship will function." She was silent for a moment. "Yes, but where would we go? My kind would sense my failure. Your people would hunt us." "We'll find a place," Ta Jun promised. "An uninhabited world where you can be yourself, where I can learn who you truly are." Dong Hyun stepped forward. "You can't be serious. You're choosing that thing over humanity." "I'm choosing to prevent a war," Ta Jun answered without taking his eyes off Nari. "Her kind would send others if she doesn't return. This way, Earth stays safe, and so does she." The ship shuddered again as more systems failed. They were running out of time. "Decide now, Nari," Ta Jun urged. "Be what your programming tells you to be, or be who you want to be." Her form twisted in what seemed like pain. Slowly, the connections between her body and the ship began to retract. The organic material pulled away from the computer banks, leaving behind strange patterns etched into the metal. "I choose you," she said finally, her voice smaller now, coming from a single source as her form condensed. "I choose to be more than my purpose." Captain Minho ordered the shuttle bay prepared. Within an hour, as the ship's systems gradually returned to normal, Tajun and Neri stood before the small craft that would take them away from the stellar wind. "You're committing treason," Dong Hien said as he watched Tajun prepare the shuttle. "You'll never be able to return to Earth." "I know." Tajun didn't look up from the controls. Captain Minho approached, his face grave. "The official record will show that you were lost during an emergency evacuation. Nothing more." Tajun nodded, grateful for this small mercy. "Thank you, Captain." "I don't approve of this," Minho said quietly. "But I understand it. Sometimes the right choice isn't the easy one." Neri waited inside the shuttle, her form now a compromise between her true nature and her humanoid appearance. She could maintain the illusion of humanity for short periods, but her true self would always emerge. As they prepared to depart, Dr. Juwu rushed into the shuttle bay carrying a small container. "Research samples," she explained, handing them to Tajun. "From her and from the transformed areas of the ship. I've been studying them. They have remarkable properties: healing, adaptation, communication across species barriers." "Why are you giving me these?" Tajun asked. "Because someday, when tempers have cooled, what you learn out there might save lives." She glanced at Neri. "Both are kinds of lives." The shuttle departed without ceremony. As the stellar wind shrank in the view screen, Tajun felt both loss and possibility. Behind them was everything he had known. Ahead was the unknown. "Where will we go?" Neri asked, her form shifting more freely now that they were alone. "The star mapping we did identified several habitable moons in this sector, places no one has claimed." He set the course for the nearest one. "We'll find our own world." As they traveled, Neri explained more about her kind. They were ancient, spreading through the galaxy by transforming worlds to sustain their collective consciousness. Individual seeders like her were sent ahead to prepare the way. "But you're different now," Tajun observed. "Yes." Her form rippled. "I still feel the call of the collective, but it's distant, like a dream I'm waking from." They found their world 2 weeks later, a small moon orbiting a gas giant, with breathable air and simple plant life. When they landed, Neri stepped out onto alien soil and laughed with joy. "I can feel it," she said, her limbs extending to touch the ground. "So much potential." "You won't transform it completely?" Tajun asked, suddenly worried. She turned to him, her form catching the light of the strange sun. "Not transform. Help it grow. This world is young. We can grow with it." Over the months that followed, they built a life together. Neri taught Tajun how her kind communicated with living systems, how they could enhance rather than replace. He taught her about human individuality, about finding meaning in one's own choices rather than a predetermined purpose. Together, they created something new, a home that was neither fully human nor fully her kind's design. Plants from both their worlds grew together, creating hybrids with unexpected properties. The shelter they built combined Earth technology with living systems that responded to their needs. One night, as they watched the gas giant rise in the alien sky, Neri's form rippled with emotion. "My kind will find us eventually," she said. "When no signal comes from me, they will investigate." "How long do we have?" "Years, perhaps decades." Her limbs intertwined with his. "Time enough to show them another way." Tajun looked out at their small settlement, at the harmonious blend of two vastly different approaches to life. "You think they can change too?" "You changed me," she said simply. "I was a monster by your standards, a perfect tool by my kind's. Now I am neither in both." "And what am I?" he asked with a smile. Her form shifted closer to human, her face almost the one he had first seen in the crashed ship. "You are the bridge, the first human to truly understand us." Together, they watched the stars, waiting for the future they would build, Not a future of conquest or resistance, but one of possibility. Monster and man, no longer enemies but partners in something entirely new.